One day, a young man entered the university campus. He went to a women's dormitory on the second floor, found a specific room, and broke in by damaging the door handle, causing chaos inside. Overwhelmed with anger, he tossed clothes, smashed furniture, and ripped apart books and notebooks. By the time security arrived, he was sitting on the bed, crying, holding a spilled soda. The young man, 22-year-old Mark Howerton, was then arrested and taken to the police station. The damage was estimated at $1,650. Mark had been grieving the loss of his girlfriend, Cayley Mandadi, a Trinity University cheerleader. He struggled to handle his emotions. When he entered her room, he became overwhelmed. During his arrest, he was inconsolable, repeatedly calling out Cayley's name. For months before this event, Mark had been charged in connection with Cayley's death. The case is filled with rumors, unanswered questions, and extensive information from law enforcement. But let's start from the beginning. Cayley Anita Mandadi was born on August 26, 1998, in Webster to Talik Mandadi and Allison Steele. The family was financially well off. Allison was a scientist, while Talik served as an international executive director at MGM Resorts. After her parents divorced, Allison remarried Lawrence Butland, a NASA engineer, when Cayley was 9 years old. Despite the separation, Cayley kept a close bond with her father and stepfather, who became like a second dad. Cayley was not only a loving and grateful daughter and granddaughter but also an outstanding student, teammate, sister, and friend. Her joyful laughter and warm heart could brighten any room. At school, Cayley thrived academically and was actively involved in various extracurricular activities. She loved horseback riding, playing the piano, and participating in theater performances. Cayley was a Girl Scout who enjoyed running around her Clear Lake neighborhood with friends and going hiking with her parents. In 2016, she graduated with honors from Clear Creek High School in League City, Texas. She also had a passion for animals and volunteered with a group called Animal Therapy. Cayley was always eager to explore new adventures, dreamed of trying extreme sports, and constantly sought thrilling experiences. At 19, the slender, dark-haired Cayley was already a sophomore at Trinity University in San Antonio, studying communications. She was well-liked, had many friends, and led the football team's cheerleading squad. Her vibrant beauty drew the attention of many admirers. One day during a football game where she was cheering for Trinity, she met 22-year-old Mark Howerton. Mark, a tall and bright athlete as well as a professional baseball player, didn't initially catch Cayley's attention since she was smitten with someone named Jet. But Mark was instantly drawn to her, captivated by her large black eyes and unique charisma. Their first 2 meetings were awkward and unsuccessful, but Mark kept pursuing her. By September 2017, they officially began dating. From the start, friends and acquaintances thought they were a mismatched couple, as both were very emotional and quick-tempered. Their relationship was marked by a lack of compromise and filled with intense arguments and conflicts. The young, passionate couple was often consumed by jealousy and frequent fights. Friends who witnessed their relationship noticed that Cayley often had bruises on her arms and legs. One close friend even recounted a frightening incident when Cayley asked her to retrieve her phone from Mark because she was too afraid to do it herself. The situation eventually worsened, with Mark becoming aggressive at one point, brandishing a gun, and making violent threats. Cayley was aware of Mark's jealousy and volatile nature but often reassured her friends, asking them not to spread news of their loud disputes, admitting she wasn't completely innocent either. However, around 1 a.m. on September 24, 2017, Cayley's roommates could no longer tolerate the situation and called the police. They had heard loud noises from Cayley's room and a man yelling threats of violence. When the officer arrived, Mark was found alone in the room. Cayley chose not to press charges, saying that nothing serious had happened and it was just a lover's quarrel. However, her friends suspected that Mark was using controlled substances, which led to his uncontrollable fits of anger. On one occasion, he even threatened to throw Cayley off a balcony, a claim her friends reported to the police. Their relationship was like the ocean, turbulent during storms but peaceful and loving in calm moments. On October 29, Mark and Cayley attended the Mala Luna Music Festival in San Antonio. This festival, one of the largest of its kind, features gothic, modern industrial, and dark wave music, drawing over 10,000 attendees each year. Mala Luna is popular both with party enthusiasts and those seeking anonymity, as it's easy to blend into the crowd. That night, Mark and Cayley enjoyed themselves partying with friends well into the evening. However, the sudden appearance of Cayley's ex once again pushed Mark to his breaking point. They had a fierce argument and left the festival early, which was the last time their friends saw them that night. About 6 hours later, late into the night, Mark's black Mercedes arrived at a hospital. He rushed out urgently, waving and calling for help. The medical team discovered a semi-naked girl in the front seat, unconscious. The car was in disarray with Cayley's clothes scattered everywhere, and she was slumped forward like a lifeless doll. Cayley was quickly placed on a stretcher and rushed into the emergency room. Mark told the hospital staff that they had taken illegal substances before going to the festival. This information helped doctors treat Cayley for a possible overdose. She was then transferred to another medical center in Kyle, Texas, where a nurse specializing in intimate assault cases examined her and found additional bruises on her arms, legs, and ear. A forensic examination later revealed that blunt force trauma to her face and head caused her death, confirming that Cayley had been fatally assaulted. As a result, the police launched an investigation to identify who was responsible for Cayley Mandadi's death. Mark became the main suspect since he was the last person seen with her that night, although no definitive evidence directly tied him to the crime. During multiple police interviews, he repeatedly changed his story, which drew investigators' attention. Surveillance footage showed Mark and Cayley in places he hadn't mentioned. Additionally, conversations with Cayley's friends and family exposed a pattern of aggressive behavior from Mark towards her. One of Cayley's sisters even admitted being terrified of him. The police uncovered reports of violent incidents between the couple, including Mark striking Cayley's head against a car window and vandalizing her dorm room at Trinity University. Upon hearing about these assaults, Cayley's parents were heartbroken. Allison Steele, the mother of the late Trinity University cheerleader, filed a lawsuit against the university, accusing it of failing to take necessary measures to protect her daughter from her boyfriend's attacks, the same boyfriend alleged to have caused her death in a jealous rage. The lawsuit was filed in Behar County District Court on behalf of Allison Steele, with Mark Howerton, Cayley's former boyfriend, also named as a defendant. The lawsuit alleges that Howerton assaulted the 19-year-old from League City and is ultimately responsible for her death. It states that Trinity's staff, administration, and campus police were aware of Mark's volatile behavior throughout the relationship. It also claims that he had threatened to break Cayley's face or cause her serious harm. Yet in the weeks before her death, the university took no action to safeguard Cayley. A Trinity University spokesperson declined to comment on the lawsuit, citing the ongoing legal proceedings. Trinity University's failure to act on multiple reports of harassment, abusive behavior, intimidation, domestic violence, and gender discrimination contributed to the tragic death of the sophomore. Allison Steele, Cayley Mandadi's mother, stated that the tragedy could have been avoided if the university had intervened appropriately. According to the lawsuit, the university neglected its own policies for investigating and responding to possible violence and harassment within relationships. After a dorm room incident, Mark was issued a criminal trespass order banning him from campus for a year, but he repeatedly violated this restriction. Additionally, detectives uncovered numerous accounts of Mark's violent behavior toward Cayley throughout their relationship. For example, one sister recalled that Mark had threatened to throw Cayley off a balcony during an argument, while another sister said he threatened to shoot some of Cayley's ex-boyfriend's brothers with a gun. With these testimonies, the police obtained a warrant for Mark's arrest, after which he voluntarily turned himself in. In February 2018, following the discovery of Cayley's disordered dorm room, Mark Howerton surrendered to authorities. He was charged with several offenses, including criminal acts, intimate partner violence, and abduction. Despite the charges, he pleaded not guilty. The initial trial for Cayley Mandadi's death began in December 2019. Prosecutors argued that Mark, known for his volatile nature, fatally assaulted Cayley in a rage-filled episode. They further claimed that he transported her for nearly 6 hours before finally bringing her to the hospital. In response, Mark's defense team argued that Cayley's death could have been caused by multiple factors. Autopsy results revealed banned substances in her system, indicating the possibility of a sudden increase in blood pressure or head trauma during intimate activity. Cayley's mother described the injuries and bruises on her daughter as extremely severe, comparable to injuries from falling out of an airplane. The damage was indeed extensive. Photographs shown to the jurors in Behar County depicted the Trinity University sophomore from San Antonio barely recognizable. Her body was covered in bruises, red marks, and scratches. Both of her eyelids were swollen and bruised. The only parts without visible injuries were her back and the backs of her legs. Photographs and graphics taken by Dr. Susanna Dana, the forensic pathologist who performed Cayley Mandadi's autopsy revealed a subdural hematoma, a buildup of blood typically linked to traumatic brain injury, on the right side of Cayley's brain. Cayley's father, Talik Mandadi, upon seeing 2 photos of his daughter in the ICU lying in a vegetative state surrounded by numerous tubes with her face barely visible, spoke about her with a trembling voice and tears in his eyes. "That's my daughter," he said. "My only child." Dr. Dana testified that during her examination of Cayley's head, she discovered a dent in the skull. Much of Dr. Dana's testimony centered on the severe cranial and facial injuries Cayley had sustained. These included trauma to the eyes. Both eyelids were bruised, with the left eyelid swollen to the point it could not fully close. There were extensive bruises on both jaws inside the mouth above the gums and on the lips and cheeks. She also noted hemorrhages in both eyes, showing photos of the inner eyelid lining to the court. Dr. Susanna Dana concluded that Cayley Mandadi's death resulted from blunt force trauma to the head and face caused by a heavy object. However, Dr. William Anderson, who reviewed the autopsy findings, disagreed with the assessment that Cayley had been assaulted. He noted, "We don't see any fractures in the eye socket or the nose. There are no fractures on the face, which suggests there was no frontal assault." Instead, Anderson argued that Cayley's injuries were more consistent with a fall combined with extensive medical treatment. Defense attorney John Hunter offered a different perspective, arguing that the prosecution lacked enough evidence to clearly explain what happened to Cayley that night, making it impossible to definitively link Mark Howerton to the incident. Throughout the trial, Hunter frequently highlighted Cayley Mandadi's drug use, even mentioning her previous treatment for substance dependence at a hospital. Jason Wallach, a professor at the University of Sciences in Philadelphia, testified that Cayley Mandadi had a high concentration of MDMA, commonly known as ecstasy or Molly, in her bloodstream when her boyfriend brought her to the hospital on the night of October 29, 2017. The presence of this drug suggested that even a minor head injury could become fatal due to the effects of MDMA. Building on this, John Hunter argued that the drug affects individuals differently, with many experiencing increased body temperature or electrolyte imbalances after taking it, which could result in loss of consciousness. As the trial progressed, the jury was presented with testimonies, including a video and audio recording of Mark Howerton speaking to police officers. In the recording, Mark admitted that he and Cayley had an argument and then engaged in intimate relations inside the car before she lost consciousness. He described their sexual activity as rough and claimed he would strangle her during sex because she enjoyed it. Mark insisted that everything was consensual, but questions lingered about the origin and timing of the bruises on Cayley's body, an issue left unresolved during the December 2019 trial. Allison was convinced that Mark Howerton would be held accountable for her daughter's death. However, following the 2019 trial, the family was left profoundly disheartened. Despite being charged with causing Cayley's death, Mark insisted on his innocence. The defense argued that the injuries found on Cayley were actually caused during the hospital's resuscitation efforts. Consequently, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict, resulting in a mistrial. The case was heard in the 144th District Court overseen by Judge Raymond Ongolini. When the jury failed to come to a decision, the case was declared a mistrial and dismissed. As a result, Mark Howerton was acquitted during this first trial, leaving the matter unresolved. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez, who had been managing the case from the start, expressed his disappointment with the verdict and announced plans to review the case further. Meanwhile, Cayley Mandadi's parents chose to begin their own investigation. Allison and Lawrence gathered all available evidence and autopsy reports from the police, focusing intently on a small, round, pinpoint bruise near Cayley's ear. They theorized that Mark might have struck her head against the car window, which then caused her to hit the door lock, resulting in the bruise. This detail, they hoped, would help establish his guilt. To better understand the possible scenario, Lawrence found a Mercedes identical to the one Mark had been driving that night. He took photographs posing in ways that mimicked how Cayley might have sustained the head injury. With help from the Texas Rangers, they secured official records, including 3 sworn affidavits used in the arrest warrant for Mark Howerton. The charges listed were criminal acts, aggravated intimate assault, and criminal mischief. These documents addressed many unresolved questions about Cayley's case and provided a detailed timeline of events before and after her death. The slideshow compiled by authorities outlined key moments in chronological order, tracing the path that led to Cayley's death and highlighting the evidence uncovered during the investigation. Notably, the timeline revealed Mark Howerton's alleged dishonesty to the Rangers and the evidence that resulted in his arrest. Prosecutors depicted him during the trial as a manipulative, controlling boyfriend who frequently monitored Cayley, calling her repeatedly and confiscating her phone to isolate her from friends. 2 weeks before Cayley's death, texts reviewed by the jury showed that after Mark pushed Cayley against a brick wall in a violent outburst and trashed her dorm room, Cayley expressed her need for space to him. Howard bombarded Kay with dozens of messages, even threatening to take his own life at one point, to which she desperately pleaded with him not to follow through. That evening alone he called her nearly 200 times. Later at the festival, tensions rose again when they argued about Cayley's ex-boyfriend, who was also present. Following the argument, Mark Howard took Cayley from the event, placed her in his car, and drove to a remote parking lot near the Whataburger headquarters close to US 281 and Sunset Road. GPS and camera records revealed that the couple remained in that parking lot for over an hour. Prosecutors argued that it was during this time that Mark Howard assaulted Cayley Mandadi, ultimately beating her to death. Cayley's family expressed deep gratitude to the Texas Rangers for their thorough and committed investigation, which led to the proper criminal charges against the alleged attacker. The retrial of Mark Howard began in June 2023 after being postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. During the proceedings, the prosecution initially considered presenting a video recorded by Cayley's parents that showed her injuries in the hospital, but they ultimately chose to withdraw the footage to avoid potential legal complications and new disputes. With crucial evidence gathered alongside the Texas Rangers, Mark Howard was ultimately found guilty of aggravated assault causing bodily harm that led to Cayley Mandadi's death. The court sentenced him to 20 years in prison, imposed a $10,000 fine, and ordered restitution to Cayley's family. Additionally, he was prohibited from contacting over 20 individuals connected to the case. Now in his 30s, Mark is serving his sentence at Willacy County Jail and will be eligible for parole in 2033. While the conviction offered some measure of closure to Cayley's family, they expressed that the sentence felt insufficient given their immense loss. In this second trial, Howard faced expanded charges, including aggravated assault causing serious bodily harm and criminally negligent homicide. In addition to the manslaughter charge from the first trial, the prosecution refined their legal approach to build a more thorough case. Despite the verdict, both Cayley's family and prosecutors remained dissatisfied and pushed for further legal action, demanding another retrial. Cayley Mandadi's heartbreaking story underscores the tragic consequences of violence on a young life full of promise and the relentless pursuit of justice by her grieving family. This complex case was extensively covered in the article, The Final Hours of Cayley Mandadi, reported by 48 Hours correspondent Peter Van. Cayley's ordeal serves as a powerful reminder of the devastating impact of abuse on young people. Despite the conviction, Cayley's family voiced that the verdict fell short of delivering true justice for their beloved daughter. In 2019, Allison Steele, Cayley's mother, successfully advocated for expanding the missing persons alert system in Texas. She went on to establish Cayley's Calling, a nonprofit organization dedicated to unifying missing persons alert systems to improve public safety and awareness. Additionally, Steele launched a campaign to raise awareness about the Clear Alert System, an emergency broadcast alert in Texas for missing individuals aged 18 to 64. Allison Steele shared that they remain deeply devastated by Cayley's passing and asked those with faith to keep their family, friends, and the pursuit of justice in their thoughts and prayers.